And we're live, streaming to you from the footsteps of New York City. We are Music Matters with Jason Tramm, and thank you so much for joining us for our unique podcast community, where we explore the triumphs and challenges of the performing arts world as seen through the eyes of distinguished artists. And thank you so much for helping us grow. We just hit 1,830 subscribers on YouTube, and we grow every day thanks to people like you. So please follow us on our social media outlets and subscribe on YouTube and smash that bell icon for the most up-to-date information on our upcoming guests and topics. We love when you like and share our videos, and remember, you can join in the conversation by chatting and asking questions of the guests. Love it. Join that conversation. It makes our conversation more rich. We have a wonderful band today. We've got two members of the Thirsty Curses, a rock band out of Raleigh, North Carolina, founded by Wilson Getchell. And in 2017, they've put out 4 studio albums, and they're doing some great work, and we're delighted they can join us. Welcome, Wilson and Clayton.
Hey, thanks for having us. Excited to be here.
Great to meet you both. So introduce yourselves and say what you do.
My name's Wilson Getchell. I play guitar, piano, and sing in the band and do pretty much most of the songwriting.
I'm Clayton Herring. I play the bass. I make music videos, and today I'll be playing a little bit of percussion.
And you guys have been with the band the longest? I was reading in the bio. Is that correct?
That's right. I formed the band. I moved around a lot in my 20s, I guess, and had been bouncing around. Moved here like circa 2016 and had a backlog of songs, and kind of started putting together a band. Shortly thereafter, Clay, who'd lived up in Richmond, which is where I grew up, he moved down and kind of got involved in the band. So yeah, I mean, Clay and I have been playing music on and off since we were like middle school, high school. We've known each other a long time.
You guys figured out the old adage, it's much more fun to make music with friends, right?
Right.
Amen. Amen. But,
friends become family through music, right? That's how it works.
It's very true. It's very true.
So what is it about, tell us about what makes Healthy Curse. What makes you guys tick? You guys have a unique sound, and I was reading and I listened to a bunch of your work, and really grabbed me. You guys have you have a very direct communicated. Your voice is very emotion packed, and I really like the songwriting too.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think we both have like just a general drive to create. I mean, I use songwriting too as kind of a way to process things, but my brother really got me into like rock and roll at an early age, and I kind of got really into the Beatles and stuff like that, and just maybe from like middle school on kind of really prioritized wanting to be a good songwriter. So I've been practicing at it for a while, I suppose.
Who are some of your inspirations, both of you? Who are your inspirations? Give us a couple.
Well, I remember when I first started playing music, I got a guitar for Christmas when I was 13 years old. And one of the big hit songs on the radio at the time was Santa Monica by Everclear. So I called a friend who knew how to play it because the internet didn't exist then. So I called him up and I was like, that song you were playing the other day, how do you play it? And he was like, you want me to tell you over the phone? And I was like, I've got time. So he did. And I learned the little riff from Santa Monica. And from there, just like all kinds of mid-90s alternative, Blind Melon, all those guys just had a big impact, and I was hooked. So
yeah,
he was playing music at the time, so gave a call. We got together in the garage, made some horrible noise for years, and yeah, 20 years later we're still at it. 25 really.
The noise has gotten a little better, but
hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, me too. A lot of 90s stuff, but I mean, a lot of 60s and 70s stuff too. I mean, punk rock was big influence coming along. But yeah, certainly like a lot of the grunge stuff too was probably a springboard into punk. And then, I mean, I lived in Austin for a big chunk of my 20s too, and just kind of like a lot of the indie bands that were coming up in the early aughts period or whatever. Were also sort of a big inspiration. Sorry, one other one, I guess, Robert Pollard from Guided by Voices. I kind of, on a personal level, just find him inspirational because he was sort of like a blue collar musician. He had like a job as a teacher and like worked, playing music at night until he was able to stop teaching. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of influences, but yeah.
I think for musicians coming up through their teens, punk rock has to be influential because it's angry and angsty and easy to play. So, that's where we all got our start. And then, as we learned of more than 3 chords, we branched out into other things. So we got a little calmer and older.
Well, you get wiser. That's just thinking. Like I'm 47, so I can relate. Yeah, your music deepens. You learn new ideas, kind of bring new influences. How has your songwriting changed, Wilson? As you've developed as an artist, and you've put out 4 albums worth of material with the band.
Yeah, I mean, I like to think it's improved a bit over the years. I mean, I've been putting out CDs and things like that for as long as I can remember. But yeah, I mean, I think the songwriting's just gotten more mature and probably more accessible for the listener. And I mean, a little more complex too. I mean, certainly for many years I was just writing kind of 3-chord, punkish songs and things like that. And now, I incorporate the piano a lot more. I probably started playing that like 8 years ago or something, but it's kind of become my favorite instrument. Whereas before, I certainly always wrote with the guitar, but now I'm more likely to write from the piano, which is kind of a big change.
I know I find with a lot of the artists I've interviewed says it's very different. Sometimes, when you take the piano, the chords feel different. Like the arpeggio patterns are different than the guitar where they sit, right? It's like gives you a different kind of way to think about the music.
Absolutely. I mean, my music theory understanding has grown exponentially just from playing the piano, because it's just kind of all in front of you, and the way you can kind of just see how things are laid out, what you're playing. Whereas on a guitar, it kind of changes as you go up and down the board. But yeah, I mean, the piano, I think it's the best instrument, just because like any piece of music pretty much can be created on the piano.
Did either of you take music lessons growing up?
I didn't take many. I took, the first instrument I started playing was the drums, actually, and I took a couple of lessons there. But I mean, other than that, I mean, I would kind of learn from like friends, or just, I didn't really take many formal music lessons. Did you?
I took a few classes, excuse me, a few band classes and keyboard classes in high school. Took guitar lessons very briefly with this stone dude who was like, bring in a tape, man, and I'll teach you how to play whatever song you want. And I brought him Blue Oyster Cult's Don't Fear the Reaper. And so he put the tape in, and he would pause it and stop it and then try to figure it out and write it down. And I was like, okay, I think I can get this out of the Guitar World magazine. So I just started getting tabs wherever I could and learning from there.
Isn't it amazing how YouTube has changed that for kids? For example, I just had a guest on the...
Anything nowadays is just so much
crazy.
Different than when we were kids. We had to earn it. And I feel like the knowledge maybe meant more because we had to go to the links that we did to learn what we had to learn, I
just had a world music specialist who plays stringed instruments from China, India, and the Middle East. So he's got this incredible range of and he's a Caucasian living up in upstate New York who's never been to any of those countries, but he's fantastic. But he's learned it all from
YouTube. Huh?
I mean, I thought for sure he'd lived in all those cultures and studied with the master. No, he learned it in his, but apparently there's a huge online community of that. So I'm just sitting there, and I know a lot of I've had some people who've come on who've never taken a lesson, who've learned it from YouTube and kind of just put a lot of, it's just amazing to me what's possible these days.
It's true. I mean, with piano, that's certainly where I've learned a lot of things. I mean, when I was first starting out, I would just learn Beatles songs from YouTube, and you kind of pick up things along the way as you do that. But yeah, it's an incredible resource. I mean, you can learn how to, fix a 57 Chevy or whatever,
There's a video for that. Someone's put it out there. Yeah. We're a podcast talking to indie bands who are doing great work. So I'm just amazed the depth of what YouTube puts out there. It's crazy.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that I read something a couple of years ago about per day, the amount of hours that are uploaded, you couldn't watch in your lifetime or something like that. Yeah,
it's astounding because it's the global community. Well, what's it like being part of the global community of music? I mean, you got 4 albums on Spotify. I was just on there, and you're on YouTube, and your numbers are going up. And what's it like to know that your music has an impact that goes global?
I mean, it's definitely interesting because going out and playing live shows, reaching 10,000 people, that takes a while. But one song gets put on YouTube and can easily get 10,000 views, and people around the world can see it, and that's something that's pretty awesome in music these days. The accessibility of it, like that anybody, there's no studio requirement for making professional sounding music these days. It can be done in your basement. It can be done in your bedroom, So
have your albums been done?
Around.
Did you guys self-produce your albums? Are they done in the studio, or did you?
Half and half.
Yeah, the first two were done in like a brick and mortar old fashioned studio. The second one actually we did with Mitch Easter, who had a band called Let's Active back in the 80s, and he produced like some early REM stuff. But anyway, and the last two we did at our home studio. But yeah, it's been sort of a mix. I mean, we would love, well, even the last one, we spent one day at like a studio, but we'd won that studio time. I mean, I think that's the thing, is that, just being able to do it at home, you can put all the time into it and sort of sit on ideas and not feel rushed. And that's always been my big problem with going into studios, is just that they're so expensive that you end up not getting done what you go in to do. And so I was like, well, instead of investing money into that time, just buy more gear. So
yeah, it's always the temptation is to invest in the gear and all that. It's expensive being in the music business, so whether in any of the fields, I know, but for a band, certainly you always have to deal with that. What percentage of your music is in the studio? What percentage is on the live stage?
You mean like on the records, on the album?
For you guys these days.
Oh, well, I mean, I guess traditionally most of the time it's live. I mean, COVID obviously interrupted that to a degree, but even last year, I mean, we played probably like 35 live shows last year. I mean, we're down here in Raleigh, which didn't have a ton open, but just in the South in general, there was a lot more open and having bands and things. So we did a fair amount of touring kind of in the southern states, I guess. We made it up to DC once and Philly once too. But yeah, I mean, I always like us to be playing live as much as possible. I mean, I just think that's how you stay fresh. That's what bands do. Bands play live music. So, I mean, that's always a big priority for me. But I mean, like Clay was saying earlier, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because you can reach, 10 million people with the focus on the sort of digital platforms. So, I mean, we try to, we put in a lot of time to each, to be perfectly frank. I mean,
it's important today, because how do you get your name out there? How do you make a living at it? I would hope that the digital world will help boost the sales and your merch sales and help support the band that way.
Yeah, you would hope. But yeah, I mean, kind of about the global music community too. I mean, it is just such a competitive industry too. I heard someone not too long ago liken it to walking down a street and it's just completely filled with like street performers, and you walk down every block. And it's very difficult to kind of get noticed and stand out. And so kind of our strategy is that we're going to be doing it anyway. And hopefully at some point someone will notice, and we just, we take it seriously, and we put a lot of effort and, hard work into it. But I mean, we enjoy doing it too. So
yeah, we put a lot of effort into our live performances, because a lot of times, we have different members from when the song was recorded, or when the song was fairly new to us. So we've had years with the song to let the song grow and change and kind of take on a little bit of different characteristics, but stay the same song at its core, which is it's always been fun, kind of a challenge to do at the same time.
Yeah, I'd love to explore that. So with when you're writing songs and performing them live, often do they change from the conception until live performance, until you put them on the studio album?
They'll grow and change. I mean, things will develop. I mean, I always like to try to have us be playing them out for a little bit before we record them. It doesn't always work out that way, but I mean, I think from doing it that way, you kind of start to notice where things are dragging or aren't, kind of how you want them to be. So I mean, at the same time, there's at least one song on this most recent album that we put out that was like a studio creation that kind of just came together. It had never been played live before. But I mean, generally speaking, yeah, I think playing things live before recording them is important. But that being said, they still
It's not always
change.
possible, but
Well, yeah, but after they're recorded, they still change a little bit. Just even like bass lines might get spruced up a little more than they were on the recording, or the song on our second album called Exile, which is like kind of we often close with. It's sort of like a rowdy country punk song, but we recorded that at like a 111 BPM, and it's like since then I've always felt like that's a tick too fast, so we try to play it just like a couple BPM slow. I don't know. There's like little things change over time like that kind of.
It's fun when you go see a live show and you've heard the album and you bring in something different, and it's extra chorus or longer solo. It's always fun to hear that kind of how things can change.
Absolutely.
So would you like to play for? So I'd love to hear you guys play live.
Yeah. This one we're gonna play Tell Me the Truth. It's off this most recent album that we put out in March called To the Ends of the Earth. What else? Oh yeah, I mean normally we're a 4-piece, rock and roll band, but today we're an acoustic folk band. And but yeah. She said, just tell me the truth. I said, I don't know how. She said, then just write a song. That's what I'm doing right now. Yeah, it goes bop, bop, ba-da, bop, around it too. Yeah, but mostly it's just pretty fucking funny how I pretend I'm holding it together. But I guess the joke's on me. I should have done better. She said, you're doing it again. I said, girl, what you mean? She said, you're driving me crazy. Yeah, and I can't take it. I don't want to bop, bop, bop around with you. Yeah, then she told me that it's pretty and funny how I pretend I'm holding it together. But I guess the joke's on her. She should have known better. Come to one day and see where you are. All your friends and lovers have gone. You don't have a dog in the fight. One of these days you'll get right. She said, just tell me the truth. I said, I don't know how. She said, then just write a song. That's what I'm doing right now. Yeah, it goes bop, bop, ba-da, bop around it too. Yeah, then she told me that it's pretty and funny how I pretend I'm holding it together. But I guess second nature now. See, I've been doing it forever. Come to one day and see where you are. All your friends and lovers have gone. You don't have a dog in the fight. One of these days you'll be right.
Great song, thank you.
Hey, thank you.
So tell me, when did you write that and what's it about?
Wrote that in like December 2019. It was like right after our last album came out. I was involved with a girl at the time, and things just weren't going so great, But
Makes for great songs, great music.
Her telling me that like I had a hard time, or that I wasn't very good at expressing my emotions unless it was like through a song, and so There's like a line. It's like, she said, "Just tell me the truth." I said, "I don't know how." She said, "Then just write a song." That's what I'm doing right now. So it was kind of like about my inability to express my emotions in conversation, in a sense.
Pretty awesome. I love how how life kind of manifests itself in art, and like how through that art everyone can kind of look at it and see, get something different out of it. But that's what makes it cool, is that it affects people universally, and whether they're in they're in Germany or whether they're in Australia, they can find something powerful in that.
Yeah, I mean, it's right. I mean, that's what you hope. That's good art, right? Is that it's kind of has a universal human appeal.
Yeah, whether it be classical or contemporary. And when you sang that song, there's so much passion and there's so much kind of expression in it. It just kind of grabs you. I think that's it's fun, but it's also got some serious core to it.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much.
There's an article. There's on your website. There's like a review here of a couple sentences that I really like, and it's kind of interesting. I want to know what you guys think about that. This is John Adamanian of Yes Weekly writes. He wrote, many of these songs are about living it up while things are falling apart at the seams, or at least trying to find some glory in chaos and meaningless. What do you think? What do you think about that?
Well, it's kind of what life is about, honestly. Trying to find the bright side in everything. I mean, things aren't always going to go your way, but hopefully there's always something to sing about at the end of the day.
And that's a really upbeat song. It's got a great hook to it. It's just really grabs you. And even though it's got a serious topic, it's it's got that kind of want to sing along. It's great.
A little toe tapping energy.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a theme there across like a lot of our songs. Like there's like a lot of songs that have like a real toe tapping upbeat musical section, but then like a lot of the lyrics are kind of maybe less optimistic, but there tends to also be kind of like a nudge and wink at the audience a lot of times, even when it's about sort of serious or downer stuff. I mean, trying not to take ourselves too seriously at the same time.
I always tell my students, I'm a university teacher, I tell my students, you take your music seriously, but yourself, you shouldn't take it so seriously. You got to take your music very seriously.
Yeah, I mean, it's like art, right? It's like that. I don't know. It's bigger than the people who are involved in it or something.
Hard to see that when you're in it, but it absolutely is true, because it's all about giving it to the audience and seeing what the audience comes back. What's it like when you get comments from the audience, from your global audience? What's it like when you hear back from people?
I mean, it's fantastic to, because I mean, to be perfectly frank, there's plenty of down moments when you're like in a original indie rock and roll band. It's not, it's
not all glamour and.
Yeah, it's definitely not all wine and roses. And I don't know. A couple years ago, I really made an effort to really embrace when people do reach out or say positive things, because they don't have to do that. And a lot of times that gives me fuel to keep going, because it's there's plenty of times where you're like, is anyone listening? No one cares. And then someone tells you how much they care and how much they like it. And it's like, well, damn.
We talked before about how many options there are for people to give their attention and their allotment for entertainment too. And when people choose to listen to our stuff or watch our videos or anything like that, it lets us know that what we're doing is worthwhile and it's worth doing, and it's worth the effort that it takes to make it.
We're not only shouting into the void,
Right. I mean, even if no one was listening, we might still be.
Sometimes the void shouts back. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's very easy. It's like there's so much white noise out there, and there's so many artists and in the market. But how do you break through that? How has the band? How have you used social media to kind of help you out there?
Have we?
Yeah, I mean, we, like I was kind of alluding to earlier, we try to kind of attack from all fronts. I mean, we have a lot of music videos that we've put a lot of work into. We play live. We try to stay active on social media. Wherever people these days pick up music and entertainment, we try to be there. And just I mean, again, we're going to be doing it anyway. And in the last year or two, it does feel like there's been some pickup in sort of listeners and viewers and things like that. So I mean, you know, slow and steady wins the race, I guess. There's no magic bullet. I mean, you just keep doing it, I guess.
The YouTube kids call it grinding. You got to keep grinding and keep on
And
putting it out there. And
when new listeners do find us, we've got 4 albums worth of material, you know, several years worth of music videos to check out.
Yeah.
So, you know,
let's talk about the videos.
When people start listening to us and hear a song they like, a lot of times they'll take the deep dive and go back through the whole catalog, and that's
one of them.
That's how we make new fans. So.
I'm one of them. I've heard a couple songs on Reverb Nation, and I went to my research, and I've been listening in the car, and I'm like, these guys are really good. I'm like, I played it for my son. He's a rock guy too, and you know, my youngest son's a drummer, and so we were all listening different ways, and we had a 17, 22, and 47. So if the three of us like it, it's probably something there.
You know, and I like to say too that we feel like we do have something for everybody, because we genre hop quite a bit, and so I mean, yeah, I mean, if whatever one's music preference is, if it's in the rock universe, we tend to have you covered somewhere or another.
So tell me about that. So Clayton, tell us about the creation of the videos. I'm always impressed what people are doing with videos, because back in the day, I grew up in the 80s, of course, I'm 47. So, you know, music videos were like Thriller when I was a kid, and that was like, you know, an event that probably cost a lot of money.
Right.
Today's indie artists are doing really great work. I watched Bruises on Your Shoulders. That's got 12,000 views already, and you know, that's a really good video. It tells a good story, but how are you doing that on a budget?
Video and film's always been like a huge interest of mine. Started with me and my brother with a VHS camcorder. And an acoustic guitar with no strings, pretending to be Billy Ray Cyrus, I think. So, like, I've always been interested in film and video, and music videos are one of the things, you know, growing up in the middle 90s, like MTV, that was the golden era of music videos, you know, back when record labels would put out real money for videos to be made and stuff. So I grew up just with a love for music videos. That's actually how I got with Thirsty Curses. I was living in Richmond at the time, and they came through and we made a music video on Belle Isle in Richmond, and I made the video for them. Then the following year I moved to Raleigh and started playing the bass for them. So
yeah, Bruises though in particular, we made that during the pandemic, and we were able to make it on a very tiny budget. I think we spent like $240. We had a friend.
That's a tiny budget. Wow.
Yeah, we awesome. have a friend who works at a community college in like their media department, and they brought us. They wanted to like do a music video with us, and Clay had this idea of sort of the stage play, and they did a lot of help for us about like securing the theater that we filmed in and things like that, like a lot of the kind of logistic work, and also, it was during COVID, so we had some friends who were like stage play actors, and they didn't have anything to do. They hadn't been involved in projects for months, so they were willing to come participate in that for free.
It wasn't without its challenges, because it was June of 2020 when we shot it. So, yeah. Or was it July? But it was summer of 2020 when we shot it. So we spent a whole day doing rehearsals, because it's one take that's 3 minutes long. And we spent the whole Saturday doing rehearsals for it, running through, because we hadn't been on the stage. So that gave us an idea of how everything was going to work out in those 3 minutes. And we got that there on Saturday. And we kind of had to do that with masks and with everybody kind of keeping to their corners of the stage and everything. So that was a little surreal. Then the next day when it came time to actually do the take, and everybody was in costume with makeup and everything, you know, for 3 minutes, everybody takes their mask off and pretends it's 2019 again. And then, you know, we actually got it on the first take, which was quite something. We did another take afterwards, but we ended up using the first take that we did.
We'd bought 2 of those shatter bottles, so we had 2 takes.
We had
to
two
use those.
chances to get it right.
That's it.
Luckily, the first take was
the
one
budget is 2.
Yeah.
And for me, it was kind of interesting because, I mean, it was originally a concept that kind of was. I knew it was going to be a real challenge to put it all together and make everything work out, have all the pieces put in place. And we even had a backup plan if the one take thing didn't work out. And so for me, like I made all the cardboard sets and everything, like wrote the script for it, directed the whole thing, and then when it came time to actually shoot, I was in it playing the bass. So I'm just kind of standing there watching this whole machine unfold in front of me, trying to remember to play the bass while I'm watching these guys do all this stuff. And it was pretty awesome, but we made it work. It got some really good attention. Got like you said, about 12,000 views, and
And
You
counting.
counting?
the Nash Community College that we worked with on it, they won the International Broadcasting Association Education
It won some award.
Association
That's
award
awesome.
for it. So that
And
was
more important, it's a great song and it gets it out there. I mean, how important is it that a song has a video in 2022?
We think it's very important. We try to do it when we can. I mean, we also don't just want to throw something up there that isn't well thought out or, but yeah, I mean, you're more likely to get people's attention. I mean, kind of back to your earlier question. I mean, people are more likely if they're going through their social media feed to watch a music video through which they'll hear a song than if you like post a song, then they're going to have to leave, go to some other stream, you know? So I mean, it makes getting people to listen to your song easier, I think. I mean, I think at least for singles and things, and if you can draw them in, you hopefully, they'll listen to the actual audio albums too.
So here's a 2022 question. In an era of singles, why are groups like you guys making albums?
Well, we had some internal debate about that.
that's a good question.
No, we did put out a bunch of singles in the lead up to the album, but I mean, I don't know, just me. I'm very strong supporter of the album sort of presentation. I just think that, especially with a band like us, that sound can be kind of all over the place genre wise, that like it gives an opportunity to present a more like accurate picture than just kind of little singles. Because I mean, actually the lead single off of this most recent album is a song called Nothing Really Matters, which is like a hardcore punk song, and like it's like the most unrepresentative song on the album, so I mean, I think there's an element of that, and to me too, I mean, I just always, when I was growing up and getting into rock and roll and stuff like that, like that's how I consumed music. That's how I look at it artistically. Like, if a band comes out with a great album, that's a lot more impressive to me than if a band comes out with a catchy song.
One of the benefit of it is, like, if you think of like a photo album as kind of like a collection of a place and time, it's good to group songs together in that way, rather than just have, we've got 200 songs, here they are.
Yeah, if I find a band I like, a new band I like, I want to listen to album by album. Yep.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, actually, girl I'm dating, we have a pet project that we were like picked a bunch of artists that we're gonna like listen to their whole discographies, and only the albums though, not the singles, So
I think pop music has been so, and rap have been so like, they're it's all about as fast as possible. I guess the music industry in general is just as fast as possible, get it out there and like a commodity. But there's something to be said for putting an album out there that's kind of like unified. Maybe the songs are connected in some way, or at least they're by time, certainly. But also if there's like motives or there's ideas that connect these pieces. Do you have those on some of your albums? Have you put that together?
Well, if you look at All Shook Up, the second album, there's it starts with basically, 5 songs that are basically standalone songs. And then the back half of the album, each song plays into the next.
Yeah.
Kind of as one complete thing that's separated. Obviously, like, Pink Floyd did, or a lot of progressive rock bands did back then. So there's things like that.
Yeah, I mean, and sorry, I was sort of spacing out during the question. You said motifs over the albums and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's that on the back half of All Shook Up. The last 5 songs all run together. In my head, it was trying to like mimic the back half of like Abbey Road or something like that. but there's also certainly some themes, I think, throughout the albums, and like maybe that aren't necessarily noticeable to the average listener, but like I kind of notice my worldview or like the way I'm looking at things changing over time. Like our first album, Holy Moly, like to be perfectly frank, I was like having pretty serious drinking problems at the time, and like just like that's what the album's only about, you know. It's like the entire subject of the album and stuff. There's like war metaphors for substance abuse like painted throughout it, and so but now it's like there's not like the just the subject of the songs are like much. So I mean,
there's also been a different lineup on each of the 4 albums.
There has
been at least one change between each one. So.
Yeah, but so I mean, there's and I kind of like that in a way. I mean, I never would have intended it to necessarily work out that way, and I don't like it when people leave for whatever reason. But it kind of gives a freshness and uniqueness to each record, and kind of retrospect, kind of having at least one different player on each one. But
it's interesting how one person can make that big of a change, you know, but like a different drummer or a different, it just adds a different perspective. Who are the other members of the band currently?
We have Minash, who is our drummer, and we have Kelly Otwell, who is actually the original lead guitarist. He's playing with us right now. We had a guy named Alex playing on this most recent album, and it just wasn't working out on like a personal level. But yeah, so I mean, right now we have the original lead guitarist playing with us. We've got a run of shows coming up with him coming back in the fold. I think it's more of a temporary thing, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, so
it's hard to
Wilson, Clay, Minash, and Kelly. What it's
nice.
We've played shows as a 3-piece before. You know, we're always kind of on the lookout for other musicians to play with. So.
The show must go on, 4-piece or 3.
You know what? There's sometimes when it's, you know, it's a good thing. You have to always be kind of changing, and it's hard to keep you more often. Like I've had a lot of indie artists on the show and indie bands, and there'll be like a core of 2 or 1, and then it kind of changes around based on what's being asked for. So
yeah, I mean, this is. Clay and I are ride or die, but yeah, I mean, it's pretty much everywhere else that the turnover's been. I mean, it's just we don't make hardly any money at this stage, and a lot of the money that we do make goes back into the project with recording and things like that. So it's just people have other things going on in their lives. I mean, Kelly, who's been our lead guitarist for most of the band's existence, I mean, he had left during COVID just because he had just other stuff to like focus on and deal with. And so it's like, and I totally understand that that's, not everyone's priority in life is always going to be my priority too. So I wish it were, but so yeah, I mean, it's kind of the nature of the beast. I think if we were like, doing international tours, pulling in money, it'd be easier to keep people around probably.
Only get there by doing the work you're doing now, getting in there, getting out there, get your music out there, and get on the stage.
Absolutely. But yeah, what do we try to do? I mean, just kind of keep the ball rolling. Live to fight another day.
Keep putting music out there. So, play another song for us. We'd love to hear another one.
Yeah. First, though, just wanted to mention we mentioned our drummer Minash. He actually has a brand of collapsible K-homes, as you see here.
Cool.
Boots and Cats Company.
Yeah. We told him we'd do a shout out for his
Please do. Yeah,
that's
company.
Awesome. These things actually fold up and they fit in a backpack. And I mean, it doesn't get much more portable than that. So.
Yeah, I think he's selling for like $200 a pop too, and like the big corporate competitors like $400 a pop. So. Buy Boots and Cats.
Boots and Cats.
Always support handmade and local.
Absolutely.
Look at that. That's a good one.
Which one?
Down and Out. Okay. This is a song normally I play on piano, but I'm going to play it on guitar today. And normally he plays bass on all of these songs. So. Anyway. live one more day like it's the last that I got. Wanna feel like a sunrise, darling, but goddamn, I just feel so down and out. Well, we're making the best of our weird situation. Things are gonna be fine. If it doesn't work out, baby girl, then we'll both just move on with our lives. Wanna feel like a good time, baby, and live my life in the sunlight, darling. It'd be nice to know if I matter to someone, 'cause goddamn, I just feel so down and out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
When was that song written?
Like early 2020, before the pandemic. It was
BC, before COVID. Interesting.
Yeah, the before times.
Very,
it was actually kind of
appropriate.
written around the same time as "Tell Me the Truth," to be honest. It was actually kind of. Now I'm just thinking about this now, actually, but it's kind of a similar subject matter. I guess I was just having a lot of girl problems at the time, but it was just it was a relationship, I guess, with not a lot of passion, and I guess that song was kind of about that.
I always say that the music's like an amber that captures everything that's going on around it when it was written, whether it's contemporary or modern. I just think that's cool. What's it like to listen to your songs when you get your catalog and get out of does it bring you back to that place?
Yeah, I mean, if there's been enough separation and I haven't heard it, I mean, like when we're going through releasing stuff or just putting it out or dealing with mixing, I mean, then hearing this stuff can be, it can drive me crazy just because I'm like listening so intently to like every little thing, and then like I'll be like, oh, did I hear like a snap or like and then I just so that can be a little, but yeah, I mean, certainly over time, like once the album or something's been out for a little while and I've gotten to step away from it, it's pretty fulfilling. I mean, it's like it's like journaling your life or something. It's got a soundtrack or something, I guess.
Well, that's the best way to do it, right? It's like, and then maybe, does that help you be authentic? Is most of your music autobiographical?
Yeah, or things I'm thinking about that are like going on in the world. But yeah, I mean, I don't. Yeah, I mean, I guess I do write kind of just from my perspective about whatever's going on, either in my life or in the world at large.
Got a question from Stephanie. Stephanie asks, she goes, when you write, do the melodies come first or the words come first?
Most of the time, probably the melodies. But sometimes songs get written around words. If some little pithy saying or something's popped up in my head on occasion, but I'd say for the most part it's melody and music first, and that's become more the case actually. Like the longer I've been doing it, I kind of sometimes like the lyrics and melody will be like the last thing, because I think some of the songs have gotten a little more complex maybe.
It's amazing how like life experience and time adds to complexity. Sting's got a great comment. He goes, "Yeah, I've been playing this thing for 30 years. I'd eventually figure out how to play it."
Yeah, I remember. So I think I'd read something about like Paul Simon saying that when the later he got in his career, that the more he like had to have an entire arrangement set up before he even like thought about words and stuff.
Interesting. Such a personal songwriting, such a personal thing. What's it like when you bring a song to the band, and how does the song change when you add the other members?
Yeah, I mean, just generally speaking, I feel like I bring like a skeleton to the band, and together we kind of put meat on it, or flesh and bones, and Yeah, I mean, a lot of times things like bridges in a song will kind of come together with the full band. There's a song off the most recent one called Your Next Move that's got kind of a bridge on the back half of the song where we go into a polyrhythm thing. That was sort of a group effort, but the rest of the song was more or less written, and that's typically, I think, how it goes. There'll be like a pretty substantial shell of a song, and then we'll kind of finish it together.
Yeah, everyone brings their own. That's great that everyone brings something to the table that kind of forms the final product. That's how collaboration works, right?
Yeah, I think Clay had said too at one point that like our general MO with that is like, I'll bring a song to the band, and if they like it, we'll play it. But sometimes they don't, and sometimes we don't. So
Generally, I mean, if there's something that needs a tweak here and there,
And yet sometimes too, there's been songs. Vera off this most recent album had been floating around the band for a couple of years, but we just like couldn't get it right. Like we just couldn't get it like we wanted. And finally, for whatever reason, it finally came together for this most. But we'd recorded it for the last album and shelved it because we were just like, it doesn't sound right. So I mean, sometimes
Wasn't the time.
yeah, sometimes these things can take years. And incidentally, there's the last song on this most recent album is called "A Baptist and a Rabbi," and I started writing
Sounds
that.
like the start to a good joke.
That's kind of what I was going for. But
good joke.
but yeah, I started writing that in like 2008, and had shelved it at some point. And during the pandemic, was like going through old hard drives just out of boredom. And found like a demo of that. I was like, this is all right, and kind of rewrote some words, and we but I mean that was similar too. It was like I'd kind of envisioned that on the guitar, and by the time I brought it to the band, we kind of tweaked the structure and sort of the instrumentation presentation a bit. So yeah, I mean it kind of changes all. It's different all the time, but things are rolling in, rolling out. You never
It's exciting. So what can we expect now? What can the audience expect next for Thirsty Curses? Do you have you just put out an album very recently in March, you said? What's coming up next? Live, where can people see you play? And when do you have the next studio album and targeting for?
As far as live's concerned, we're hoping to do a tour in August, September that'll get us more outside of where we kind of normally go, which is mostly like the Southeast. But in the interim, we're doing a lot of that. We're playing in Durham on this next Thursday for anyone in the Triangle. And then we're playing in Richmond, Virginia on Saturday, May 7th. And then we're playing Wampus Cat Music Festival, which is in North Carolina, Sanford, in mid-May.
We're playing with
Everclear.
With 90s hits Everclear, as well as Lit.
Yeah.
You may remember those guys.
And the guy from Dishwalla.
And one of the guys from Dishwalla.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty star-studded lineup.
And us.
Fun.
It's going to be great. But it's a 3-day thing. It's actually the first year doing this festival in Sanford, North Carolina. The guys that do Indie on Air Festival are doing this festival for the first time out there. It's pretty ambitious. Big farm, camping, and 3 days of rock and roll. So.
Yeah, there's a country stage, a rock stage, and an indie stage.
Yeah. Wow, that is ambitious. Wow.
Indie stage.
And if you put in the coupon code CURSES at checkout, you get a discount, and we get more money. So
if you're going, do that because gotta support the bands you like.
Yeah. And but yeah, then we've got.
We've got some music videos on the way, actually.
Yeah, that's some other stuff we're working on.
We've recently secured some puppets, so
yeah,
we'll see how that goes.
And as far as future albums, I mean, I have an acoustic project idea I've been trying to push on them lately, just because there's an element of a lot of the songs and just like a lot of our musical style, at least back in the day, that was very acoustic based, sort of like campfire song stuff that I kind of wanted to do. But that's at least floating out there. And then I don't know, we probably will try to do another album next year. I mean, like a more full band thing. I mean, that's kind of my goal generally, is an album a year. That was interrupted by COVID, but otherwise, you know, we had one in 2017, 2018, 2019, and then the beginning of 22. I mean, during 2021 was when we were able to kind of get back in the flow of things, and we were touring and recording. But, you know, barring some other chapter out of the Book of Revelations, hopefully there'll be another record next year too.
Well, God willing, we'll keep looking for it. Where should people go to follow Thirsty Curses and to learn more about you guys?
I mean, we have a website, and we're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. And we're really the only Thirsty Curses out there. If you type in Thirsty Curses, and, you know, so I mean, you know, we try to make it so that whatever platform you feel comfortable enjoying our music, that you're able to do that on your preferred platform.
Tidal? You like Tidal?
You like Tidal? We're on Tidal. But yeah, we're on all the streaming sites, and but I tend to send people to YouTube first, because it kind of, we've got like, I don't know, 7 or 8 pretty dope music videos, if you ask me, and they kind of got a lot of our like singles, so that's like a good starting place for people.
There's some live stuff on there.
There's some live stuff too.
Fantastic.
Some B-sides, some rarities, some deep cuts.
Yeah.
So tell us about the name Thirsty Curses before we get off the call. Where'd the title come from, and what does it mean?
Well, I mean, it's the drinking curse.
Yeah, it's kind of a clever way to say alcoholism, but then also it's got kind of the double meaning, because, you know, thirsty, you know, the kids now, that means like kind of smitten, horny, or whatever. So, but yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like about how the things that we love can also destroy us, kind of underlying thing. I think there's kind of
everybody's got a thirst that's also a curse.
Yeah.
You know, and besides, it's got a nice repetitive sound to it. It rolls off the tongue.
Yeah.
When you search on Google, nothing else comes up. That's
really hard to find an original name. Some bands give me their names, and like, I can't find them on their own social media platforms. I have to search around.
Guys that were great
called
band.
Whoop.
They were called Whoop, and I googled Whoop band, and there's a fitness tracker.
It's
called
a band.
Whoop band. And like, I could not find anything about them.
But they were great.
But shout out to Whoop, they were amazing.
But they need to change their name.
Yeah.
They need to change their name.
Well, not you guys. Keep making great music. Thank you for joining us on Music Matters, and continued success.
I appreciate you having us. Thank you so much.
All the best. Thank you for joining us on Music Matters with Jason Tramm. Please remember to subscribe on YouTube and smash that bell icon for the most up-to-date information on upcoming guests and topics. Thank you for joining us, and remember, keep music alive.